Hello guys, and welcome to Rolling Thoughts, my little series of videos that I've decided to rename that, and I think it's very suiting. Being here on the trainer, being here talking by myself pretty much, just felt very suiting to name it that. And I hope you liked the first episode 2 days ago. Today is Friday the 15th, and I am here to talk about the things that we've seen in the last few days, the last 2 days more precisely, since the last one was recorded. So, last episode, I mentioned something, um, kind of a question, an asterisk, something to be thinking about. So, my question was it in the 2013 Giro that the Colombian Revolution began? And so, before I start getting on it, I'm going to ask that if you like the content of these videos, hit subscribe. It would be a big help for my short slash medium term goal, which would be to make live streams here on YouTube, to be able to reach out and talk to you at the same time that I do this. It's an idea that I love, and it needs a certain number of subscribers to be able to do that. So it's definitely the number one thing that I ask if you indeed like this. So let's jump on it. So was it in the 2013 Giro that the Colombians started rising? I gave a little research to that question, and well, I got some interesting answers. Both yes and no. So I guided myself through PCS ranking, Pro Cycling Stats. I found it to be very complete and a better indicator than the World Tour rankings. I didn't see those. PCS ranking includes all kinds of UCI races throughout the whole year, and just feels like a much more accurate ranking to be representing what I was looking for. And so I found that in the years previous to 2013, so 11 and 12, Colombia, it was, if I'm not mistaken, 12th and 10th in that ranking, which is pretty good already. Most of that was due to Rigoberto Urán's presence in Team Sky already at that time. Mostly in 2012, the Olympics, he finished second in the Olympics, and that had a big influence on Colombia's results. And 2013 they were ninth, so there was a little improvement there, but nothing special really. It was the year where Betancourt came upon the big scenario, the scene. It was where Urán revealed himself as really a top contender for Grand Tours, someone who is capable and has the lights to win one. And it is where later in the year Quintana finished second in the Tour. It wasn't a big revelation at the time. We knew of his potential, but it was a magnificent performance. And that had boosted my question. Was it in the Giro that it all started? Well, the answer that I got was that in 2013, Colombia were ninth in the ranking, and 2014 they were still ninth. So if you look at that in that way, no, it wasn't really in 2013, despite the tiny rise from 12 to 13. But if you look at it in a more specific way, the Giro d'Italia had Quintana and Urán finished first and second, and Betancourt consolidated himself in the peloton even further. He won Paris-Nice early in the year. There's definitely something to that. Individual results got better. That needs to be said. But maybe overall in the big picture, no. But in the big picture, that has happened eventually, though. So in 2015, Colombia was already 7th. There was a big leap in there. And in 2016, they were 6th. And that was the year that Esteban Chaves finished second in the Giro, and then third in the Vuelta, the year where Miguel Angel Lopez came onto the scene. He won the Tour of Switzerland, and we've had Quintana win the Vuelta, and finished third in the Tour. So it is very impressive for a country that wasn't on the big scene. I mean, 6 years ago, they had one or two riders that was there riding quality, but never, never the same quality. It was a big, big leap in there. And 2017, they were still in sixth. 2018, they remained sixth. That was the year where Egan Bernal really took the leap into Ineos and became the rider that we know today pretty much. And in 2019, finally, even with Bernal's major success in the Pyrenees in Switzerland and obviously winning the Tour, Colombia was still sixth. But if we look at it in the present day, today is the 15th of May, Colombia is number 5 in the ranking, and I'm not exactly sure the countries that are in front. I believe it is France, Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Either the Netherlands or Italy is one of those, and I think that Colombia is in front of one of those two major countries that have a huge tradition in cycling, that have history, that have a whole heap of big, big races in the calendar, and lots of teams. It's impressive to think that Colombia has gone so far. They've had good teams in the past. They've had very, very good riders in the past. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an historian myself. I probably couldn't name them well. But the truth is that the leap Colombia had in these last 10 years was mightily impressive, to say the least. It almost became a place where teams, almost all World Tour teams at this moment have a Colombian rider. And the rise of, for example, Ivan Souza, the rider from Androni, whose name is now missing me, the Miguel Angel Flores, if I'm not mistaken, the rider that won a stage in San Juan earlier this year. Those are big talents coming forward, and they're bound to have a great, great future. And the same thing can be said for several riders. And if you look at Astana, Bahrain, there's so many teams that are getting these young Colombian riders, and it's almost because Colombia is a field of cheap talent, of undiscovered talent. Before, if the big teams don't go there, they almost sweep through. They're almost unrecognizable. But lots of teams are taking a bet in Colombia, and it's hard to say it will get even better because it already is really good. They've been winning Grand Tours almost every year since 2014. So, okay, not every year, but they've got at least 3 wins to their name, and more are bound to come. With riders like Lopez, like Quintana, if he still has the legs he's shown in February, Bernal, Souza to go in the future. There's so much quality in there that it's hard to imagine they're not going to take another World Tour in the next few years. So we kind of left with that answer, both yes and no. So 2013 only represented a 1-place leap, which, it's there, but it isn't really much. But if you look at the Grand Tours precisely, it kind of is. At least in my eyes it is. With the resurgence of Quintana and Betancourt, that then paved the way for Chavez, then for Lopez, then Bernal. Bernal is probably Bernal probably is going to pave the way for Souza. They're already in the same team, and so much more talent to come. It's very interesting to think of it, indeed. And that was the question that I had 2 days ago. So the questions that were here for today, I've got 2 of them. The first one is the news that came out yesterday of the canceling of the Tour of Britain. So another race canceled for this year, another important race, I should say. But perhaps most noticeably,
Another race that had a late season slot. It's not the first one, and it's the next impact that appeared after the Tour of Germany was also cancelled. A very similar race. Start list is usually very similar, or at least last year, and the same time slot during the season. That at the same time as the Vuelta. It's a very important one. Preparation for the World Championships and for the last couple of months of the season. And it's a shame. The route is going to be raced throughout the same parcours, but in 2021.
That's what's scheduled, at least, if everything goes according to plan. And it's left to the question. I mean, it hasn't properly looked at the question, but it's got me thinking of the amount of races that have been cancelled since the pandemic started, and it's affected some places in specific. So we've had Great Britain, obviously. Yorkshire and the Tour of Britain were cancelled. In Germany, they've decided to cancel the Tour of Germany, the Frankfurt Classic, the Hamburg Cyclassics. In Spain, no room for Catalonia, no room for Basque Country, and also Classica San Sebastian was set to be in August, if I'm not mistaken. There is no room for them. There was no room, and those countries were really heavily hit. Joining them was Switzerland, also the Tour of Romandy and Tour of Swiss, both cancelled. They've had some sponsorship in the virtual Tour of Swiss last week, if I'm not mistaken, but obviously it's never close to the real thing. It's a shame to see such potential being cancelled. Great races. Tour of Britain is where last year there was a big duel between Mathieu van der Poel and Matteo Trentin. It was barely a duel. Van der Poel was dominating, but it was such an exciting race. Even though I didn't watch it much, it had some great finishes, and I know I have a big part of the audience, which is British people, and I feel for them. Tour of Britain is a race with a lot of potential, and it's somewhat unique. It's a land when there's so much that can be developed. If there's a focus, Britain can become a really big summer destination for the riders focusing on the big races. And even other races can be created. I'm not sure if the Prudential Ride London was cancelled. I don't think so, but at least it gives a chance for the riders to head there and have some racing in Britain.
And well, you see the thumbnail, you've seen the title of the video. The big subject of today was news that arrived yesterday. They arrived. Chris Froome. Chris Froome. So normally I wouldn't bring up a subject like this in a video because there's so much speculation about these subjects, about contract negotiations, that someone looking at it in an objective way shouldn't really take these serious, because it's only words, it's only people expressing where they think, what they think is going to happen and what makes logic. But it's an interesting subject because it's Froome, it's not just any rider, it's one of the riders that has arguably been the most dominant, the most influential, and the most, dare I say, important riders of the last decade. It's not just anyone. And the fact that Froome has built such a career in Ineos, there's a reason to discuss this. It does end up being an important subject to think of. Even though our opinions won't change anything, they're nice to think and they're nice to discuss. At least in my opinion, there's some points that need to be approached before properly handling this subject. The first one is nothing is confirmed. This is important to mention. Obviously, it's just things that are said online.
The difference between the normal ones and this one is that there wasn't even interviewing. Froome has said that he was in contact with other teams, but this doesn't change the fact that he's in Ineos and if he can renovate his contract. His contract is not renovated yet in 2021. So the other one is 2020 or 2021. About that, I don't believe that Froome is going to leave Ineos in 2020. There's just no way that's going to happen. And that is where the speculation begins, because is Froome going to leave Ineos? Maybe, maybe not. I'd say there's a 75% chance that he is going to leave. But if it's going to happen in 2020 and because of team drama, no. I mean, no, that doesn't strike me as a compelling rumor. I mean, that becomes that, that falls in the land of the rumors, absolutely, because it's something really unusual. And even though we're living in unusual times, it doesn't really give it much logic, although it has happened in the past. The reason why I believe this, and I believe it's something that's worthy of discussing, is there's a lot of credibility over Froome leaving. He, at first I didn't really think of it, but there's a couple of reasons. First of all, Froome is obviously he's had a horrible injury last season, and even though he seems to be coming back, there's no guarantees. His budget is really high, I believe. I'm not going to say numbers, but I know for a fact that it's one of the highest budgets in pro cycling. The budget that is spent with him could be spent in plenty other riders, plenty other big talents. Then we've got the presence of Egan Bernal and Richard Carapaz, which are, with no doubt, the future of Grand Tour riding. They're the two best climbers in the world at the moment, in my opinion. There's still the presence of Geraint Thomas, who is still on the peak of his career, I would say. At least until 2019, he definitely was. Then you've got such rising stars as Pavel Sivakov and Ivan Souza. And there's even more. There's just so much talent in Ineos that when you look at Froome, it's like Froome is Ineos. Like, he's Ineos' face. But when there becomes so many things against him, you start to think maybe it can happen. But then the most decisive thing that I've thought that gives a lot of credibility is the unfortunate passing of Nicolas Portal. He was Froome's DS. He was there, in pretty much every race, pretty much every training camp, I believe, and there was a big relationship in there. I think Portal guided Froome, if not all, then almost all of his Grand Tour wins. And being in the team without him, it certainly sparks a bit of, there's something less in there. He became less of a dominant force in the team with this, I would say, and definitely gives credibility to the idea that Froome may not stay. So, if Froome doesn't stay, where is he going? That's a question that has been, for the last bit over 24 hours, completely flooding cycling Twitter, and everyone's come up to one conclusion pretty much, which was Bahrain, McLaren. I agree with that. It's the team that looks the most fit to take in Froome, because they have McLaren, which I'm ready to be proven wrong, but I believe they're British. I believe they are British. They've got the Mark Cavendish this season, even though it's a big gamble, and the budget certainly wasn't low, so I think they care a lot about the image in the team. And the other thing is, I've seen people say that Bahrain may not want because they have Landa and Wout Poels, but I would say the opposite. I mean, Landa, I wouldn't say that he wants Froome there. I don't think he wants that, but they have a relation. And Wout Poels is definitely a big, big name in there. I mean, Poels has been Froome's main domestique in several
Grand Tours, essential to several of Froome's biggest wins of his life. So I'm not also sure, but I think Wout Poels currently still trains in Monaco, or at least before the pandemic, and they used to be training partners. I believe they still are. There's reasons to believe that. So I think there's not only the interest of the team, of the sponsors to bring Froome in, the money. I think Bahrain is a safe team, and they won't have problems bringing the budget up to try to bring a big star in. They've got team depth. They've got, I'm missing the name now, but the trainer that was in Team Ineos and went on to Bahrain this season was a big part of the team. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name, but I'm pretty sure that you know who I'm talking about. And there's connections in past teammates, so I would say that it makes a lot of sense for Bahrain to want to take Froome in, and for Froome to want to be in Bahrain, because it's a more, there's a lot of depth, but I think Froome still has the legs to do a lot, so there's definitely good reasoning to think of Froome in Bahrain. It's not a crazy thing to think of. Then you think, if Froome leaves Ineos, he can only go to one team, and if he goes to one team, it better be, well, first of all, a team where he's got the leadership, because definitely that's a subject that's been very approached and very important for Froome, I'd say, because he has a very clear goal in mind, which is to win a fifth tour. So there are some teams that I thought of right after Bahrain, which are NTT. They've got a new sponsor this year, they've got new management, and they've got a brand new motivation that hasn't been seen for years. So there's a big line of thought over why he could join NTT. He was born in Kenya. He has connections to Africa, which the team, although dimension data isn't there anymore, there's still a bit of connection in there, no doubt. There's Team Sunweb. Now, Team Sunweb isn't the most logical of explanations, but the simple point of this argument is they've just lost Tom Dumoulin, and they've spent years and years trying to build a team for him. They have the knowledge, they have support, and they miss a leader. They miss a big rider for the mountains. They've got Michael Matthews, Soren Kragh Andersen, Sam Omen, Wilco Kelderman. There's a lot of talent in the team, says Bull, Max Balscheid, but there isn't a big man for the mountains. Kelderman has had his chance, I think. He's still a very good rider, but I don't think he's going to improve the Grand Tour results he's had in the past. So there's definitely some thinking of Froome going there. It's not impossible. You have Movistar. Movistar is more mentioned in social media, and I think they're given more attention than I think. I think a tweet from Jose Rojas has kind of sparked this. He said, I don't know what he said actually, but he said something on Twitter related to Froome. He wanted Froome to join, I believe. I don't remember his words, but I think that was somewhere between the lines. And it's true that Movistar, until last year, I would say there's just no way. And it's not because of Quintana being there. It's just Movistar has such a Spanish and South American influence that it's impossible to get people from everywhere else, pretty much, with that kind of budget. But I think this year Movistar kind of they took out some of the money put in South America, so they've lost names like Quintana and Carapaz and Amador, big names. So you start to think maybe there's something there. And then when you look at the amount of talents, new riders they've got this season, Gabriel Cully, Yuri Allman, Johan Jacobs, who I've interviewed actually some months ago, there's a lot of focus in bringing new riders in, and refurbishing the team. And when you look at it, Valverde is 40, if I'm not mistaken. He's not going to last forever, and I know Valverde is probably very open to the entrance of Froome, and there isn't really anyone else in the team that has the influence and the power to say, I don't want Froome here. Mark Soler is a rider of great quality, but he's never really stepped up to that Grand Tour game. I think he can still do it, but he hasn't yet. So it leaves a shard. Movistar have actually even gotten Gabriel Colleague, which is a British rider. So it's not a crazy thing anymore to think of British people in Movistar. There's Israel, who were also a Twitter subject because someone made a joke. They said, well, they just made a joke, and Israel came out to say, no, like, that's not us. It's not true. At the same time, it's not, but maybe it is. I mean, it can very well be. They strike me as a team that definitely has the interest of getting a big star. I think budget can increase significantly. They've got Dan Martin for this season, so they also have the urge to get some climbing prowess in there, so that can definitely happen. There's Arkea. I know what you're thinking. Quintana is there. I don't think putting Froome and Quintana in a team together is crazy and impossible, to be honest. I think they will complement each other very well. But it doesn't come through there. My logic behind Arkea is that CCC are in a bad position, and there's a good chance that there's going to be a World Tour spot open for next season, and Arkea may very well take it. And if they do, they're definitely getting a budget increase. Money for a new star, for a big rider, and Froome has a lot of French connections. He lives in Monaco. He knows how to speak French, and although many French don't really like him, this isn't about the fame, it's about the legs, it's about the results, and I think Froome can definitely net them still. But it's a bit of a playing around with Arkea, with Israel. They're not very good assumptions, but they're possibilities as always. Then there is my final one, which is AG2R. Why AG2R, you ask? Well, as I've mentioned, Froome lives in Monaco, and the AG2R team they're based in Chambéry, if I'm not mistaken, in the Alps, and they frequently have training camps in Nice, which is pretty much Froome's home roads. So I would say there's a lot of connection in there. There could be an easy connection with the team. Froome speaks French. He trains and loves racing on French roads, and AG2R have Romain Bardet, which is also out of contract for next year still. And Bardet, he's had a different preseason. He's ended his season last year very early, and then he's had cyclocross during the off season, skied, and a different training program. Like, I believe he's trying to fall in love back with the sport. He was once a great rider, and he still has a magnificent rider. And personally, I love Bardet. But he doesn't seem to. I mean, this year he had agreed to go to the Giro, but with the new calendar, I think he's still gonna head to the Tour. And with 2 passages in the Massif Central, which are his home roads essentially, I think he's gonna head for the Tour again. But I think the French focus in his team is sometimes too much. He's never ridden the Giro, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe he doesn't agree with the team's focus that much as he used to when he was younger. If Bardet doesn't stay in AG2R, there's definitely room for a new star. And Oliver Neisen is a great rider. I also love him personally, and I've actually interviewed him as well. But AG2R are a team that are very focused in the mountains, and I would say that Froome is, he fits the standards. He fits almost every box. He ticks almost every box. Only the money one, maybe the one that may not correspond to his expectations, but at the same time, I don't think Froome is in it for the money. You know, if it takes a big salary reduction, I think that he will still take it.
You know, he's not in it for that, I believe, and that pretty much leaves, you know, the most realistic teams for him to go to. There's always the chance he stays in Ineos. I underline that, but it's an interesting discussion to think of where he may go, because it's always interesting thinking about the future, especially of such a big and influential rider, and how the team could fit to him, how he could fit into the team, and how the whole dynamics of the peloton can change because of that. So it's something to think of. I hope that next Sunday, which is when I believe I'm gonna make my episode number 3, I get a better answer, or there's more fundamental rumors. I don't know what to expect. I don't think anyone knows at this point, but it's surely something I would like to discuss more. So I hope there's further evolution early into this discussion. So that was it for today. I hope you liked this episode. If you've made it this far, I ask you again that you would subscribe to this channel down below. It would be a big help to my goal, which, again, repeating, would be to do live streams live here on YouTube. I need a certain number of subscribers for that, and it would be just awesome if you could show me your support. And I hope you like this one, and I will be back for episode 3 Sunday the 17th, very likely. I'll see you next time.